Hello, everybody. So I would like to, as promised, I was going to share a little bit about Barry's six diminished borrowing concept. So what does that mean? Borrowing, as you know, a six diminished has two sides to it, the sixth side and the diminished side, right? And of course, put together, that gives you the scale and the scale of chords. Okay, now, borrowing means you take one or more from the other side while you're playing one side. So take this chord. Now, most people will look at that chord and say, oh wow, that's a C major 7. But in this thinking, we are better served to think of it as a C6 with a borrowed diminished note. And then it either resolves or doesn't. Let's look at it resolving first because it's easier to visualize. So here's that diminished note resolving, and then that gives us our movement, right? And if we take that up the scale, then we end up with a diminished but borrowing a 6 note, which kind of gives you a built-in suspension. And you take that all up the scale, 6 with a borrowed diminished. Diminished, borrowed, 6. And so on. This is a very cool one. Right, it gives you that minor major 7 to it's almost like a line cliche. Let me do that once through so that you hear what this sounds like. So that gives us all kinds of amazing movement and some really modern sounds that comes right out of this traditional six diminished idea. Let's play around with it for a little bit. Let's take, for example, let's do it in a drop 2. Okay? And let's borrow that diminished and just take that up the scale without resolving it, and let's listen to what that sounds like. So it gives you some amazing modern sounding comping just by moving one note over. Let's experiment a little bit with moving more than one note. Let's go back to our closed position because it's easy to see. So let's have a look now. So as far as describing this, you would describe it as a C major 7 and a C major 6, but what if I decide to use the diminished note for the 5th? Sharp 5. Okay, it's getting a little more difficult to describe this in terms of regular chord changes. Whoa. I actually never did this. You see, so you can start to experiment. Let's try that again. That was really cool. So you would never think to do that. And even writing it out in chord changes, how would you write it? Like a sharp 11, who's your daddy? It's impossible. Let's borrow the diminished for the 3rd and see what happens. So I'm borrowing the diminished for the 3rd. And let's borrow the diminished for the root. let's borrow two notes. Let's borrow the top two. And so on. Let's borrow the middle two. Sorry. There it is. See, you can create some amazing sounds. Of course, in this short video, I don't have time to do everything, but experiment with the different 6 diminished scales. Experiment with drop 2, drop 3, drop 2 and 4. And of course, that's all in the key of C. So there's also all the 6 chord rules and all of that. So for a little more on that, you can see my video on my 10 chord routine, which combines the 6 diminished and the 6 chord rules, which I'll put a link in the description. Till then, happy chording. Till the next one. I have been Isaac Raz, and I continue to be Isaac Raz.